Good morning. It's Wednesday, January the 10th, 2024, week 2 of 2024. I hope you enjoyed some of the short videos that I took yesterday while the storm was ongoing. Our pond filled up to past its banks with water, and water was flowing around the dam. It was just a beautiful sight. And if you do watch those video shorts, which I took several of, please know that I did pray to the Holy Spirit for protection before I went out in that storm, and I was fine. So today we're going to read from our Bible reading plan that I got from Christianity.com. We're going to read Granddaddy's Bible, the Holy Bible that he was given as a boy, and that he kept until he died. I think at 91. We're going to read today Genesis 30 and 31. Genesis chapter 30. Rachel, being barren, delivereth her handmaid to Jacob. She beareth 2 sons. Leah, ceasing to bear, giveth also her handmaid, and she beareth 2 more. Then Leah beareth other 2 sons, and 1 daughter. Rachel beareth Joseph. Jacob, desirous to return home, is hired to stay for a certain part of the flock's increase, whereby he becometh exceedingly rich. And Rachel, seeing herself without children, envied her sister, and said to her husband, Give me children, otherwise I shall die. And Jacob, being angry with her, answered, Am I as God, who hath deprived thee of the fruit of thy womb? But she said, I have here my servant Bala. Go in unto her, that she may bear upon my knees, and I may have children by her. And she gave him Bala in marriage, who, when her husband had gone in unto her, conceived and bore a son. And Rachel said, The Lord hath judged for me, and hath heard my voice, giving me a son. And therefore she called his name Dan. And again Bala conceived and bore another, for whom Rachel said, God hath compared me with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called him Naphtali. Leah, perceiving that she had left off bearing, gave Zilpah her handmaid to her husband. And when she conceived and brought forth a son, she said, Happily, and therefore called his name Gad. Zilpah also bore another, and Leah said, This is for my happiness, for women will call me blessed. Therefore she called him Aser. And Reuben, going out in the time of the wheat harvest into the field, found mandrakes, which he brought to his mother Leah. And Rachel said, Give me part of thy son's mandrakes. She answered, Dost thou think it a smart matter that thou hast taken my husband from me, unless thou take also my son's mandrakes? Rachel said, He shall sleep with thee this night for thy son's mandrakes. And when Jacob returned at even from the field, Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou shalt come in unto me, because I have hired thee for my son's mandrakes. And he slept with her that night. And God heard her prayers, and she conceived and bore the 5th son, and said, God hath given me a reward, because I gave my handmaid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bore the 6th son, and said, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. This term also my husband will be with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And therefore she called his name Zabulon, after whom she bore a daughter named Dinah. The Lord also, remembering Rachel, heard her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, saying, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, The Lord give me also another son. And when Joseph was born, Jacob said to his father-in-law, Send me my way, that I may return into my country and to my land. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and that I may depart. Thou knowest the service that I have rendered thee. Laban said to him, Let me find favor in thy sight. I have learned by experience that God hath blessed me for thy sake. Appoint thy wages, which I shall give thee. But he answered, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how great thy possession hath been in my hands. Thou hadst but little before I came to thee, and now thou art become rich. And the Lord hath blessed thee at my coming. It is reasonable, therefore, that I should now provide also. Is it reasonable, therefore, that I should now provide also for my own house? And Laban said, What shall I give thee? But he said, I require nothing. But if thou wilt do what I demand, I will feed and keep thy sheep again. Go round through the day through all thy flocks, and separate all the sheep of diverse colors and speckled, and all that is brown and spotted, and of diverse colors, as well as among the sheep as among the goats, shall be my wages. And my justice shall answer for me tomorrow before thee when the time of the bargain shall come. And all that is not of diverse colors, well among the sheep as among the goats, shall accuse me of theft. And Laban said, I like well that thou demandest. I like well what thou demandest. And he separated the same day the she-goats and the sheep and the he-goats and the rams of divers colors and spotted, and all the flock of one color, that is, of white and black fleece, he delivered into the hands of his sons. And he set the space of 3 days' journey betwixt himself and his son-in-law, who fed the rest of his flock. And Jacob took green rods of poplar, and of almond, and of plane trees, and piled them in part. So when the bark was taken off in the parts that were piled, and peeled them in part, so when the bark was taken off in the parts that were peeled, there appeared whiteness, but the parts that were whole remained green. And by this means the color was diverse. And he put them in the troughs where the water was poured out, that when the flock should come to drink, they might have the rods before their eyes, and in the sight of them might conceive. And it came to pass that in the very heat of coition the sheep beheld the rods, and brought forth spotted, and of diverse colors, and speckled. And Jacob separated the flock, and put the rods in the troughs before the eyes of the rams. And all the white and black were Laban's, and the rest were Jacob's, when the flocks were separated one from the other. So when the ewes went first to ram, Jacob put the rods in the troughs of water before the eyes of the rams, and of the ewes, that they might conceive while they were looking upon them. But when the latter coming was, and the last conceiving, he did not put them. And those that were lateward became Laban's, and they of the first time Jacob's. And the man was enriched exceedingly, and he had many flocks, maidservants, and menservants, camels, and asses. Chapter 31. Jacob's departure. He is pursued and overtaken by Laban. They make a covenant. But after that he heard the words of the sons of Laban, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and being enriched by his substance is become great. And perceiving also that Laban's countenance was not towards him as yesterday and the other day, especially the Lord saying to him, Return to the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. He sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field, where he fed the flocks, and said to them, I see your father's countenance is not towards me as yesterday and the other day, but the God of my father hath been with me. and you know that I have served your father to the uttermost of my power. Yea, your father also hath overreached me, and hath changed my wages 10 times, and yet God hath not suffered him to hurt me. If at any time he said, The speckled shall be thy wages, all the sheep brought forth speckled. But when he said on the contrary, Thou shalt take all the white ones for thy wages, all the flocks brought forth white ones. And God hath taken your father's substance and given it to me. For after that time came of the ewes conceiving, I lifted up my eyes, and saw in my sleep that the males which leaped upon the females were of diverse colors, and spotted and speckled. And the angel of God said to me in my sleep, Jacob. And I answered, Here I am. And he said, Lift up thy eyes, and see that all the males leaping upon the females are of diverse colors, spotted and speckled. For I have seen all that Laban hath done to thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou didst anoint the stone, and make a vow to me. Now therefore arise, and go out of this land, and return into thy native country. And Rachel and Leah answered, Having we anything left among the goods and inheritance of our father's house? Hath he not counted us strangers, and sold us, and eaten up the price of us? But God hath taken our father's riches, and delivered them to us, and to our children. Wherefore do all that God hath commanded thee. Then Jacob rose up, and having set his children and wives upon camels, went his way. And he took all his substance and flocks, and whatsoever he had gotten in Mesopotamia, and went forward to Isaac his father, to the land of Canaan. In that time Laban was gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole away her father's idols. And Jacob would not confess to his father-in-law that he was flying away. And when he was gone, together with all that belonged to him, and having passed the river, was going on towards Mount Galaad, it was told Laban on the 3rd day that Jacob fled. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued after him 7 days, and overtook him in the mount of Galaad. And he saw in a dream God saying to him, Take heed thou speak not anything harshly against Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain. And when he with his brethren had overtaken him, he pitched his tent in the same mount of Galaad. And he said to Jacob, Why hast thou done this, to carry away without my knowledge my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Why wouldst thou run away privately, and not acquaint me, that I may have brought thee on thy way with joy, and with songs, with timbrels, and with harps? Thou hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and daughters. Thou hast done foolishly, and now indeed it is in my power to return thee evil. But the God of your father said to me yesterday, Take heed thou speak not anything harshly against Jacob. Suppose thou didst desire to go to thy friends, and hast a longing after thy father's house. Why hast thou stolen away my gods? Jacob answered, That I departed unknown to thee. It was for fear lest thou wouldst take away thy daughters by force. But whereas thou chargest me with theft, with whomsoever thou shalt find thy gods, let him be slain before our brethren. Search, and if thou find any of thy things with me, take them away. Now when he said this, he knew not that Rachel had stolen the idols. So Laban went into the tent of Jacob, and of Leah, and of both handmaids, and found them not. And when he was entered into Rachel's tent, she in haste hid the idols under the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And when he had searched all the tent, and found nothing, she said, Let not my lord be angry, that I cannot rise up before thee, because it has now happened to me, according to the custom of women. So his careful search was in vain. And Jacob, being angry, said in a chiding manner, For what fault of mine, and for what offense on my part, hast thou so hotly pursued me, and searched all my household stuff? What hast thou found of all the substance of thy house? Lay it here before my brethren and thy brethren, and let them judge between me and thee. I have therefore been with thee 20 years. Thy ewes and goats were not barren. The rams of thy flocks I did not eat, neither did I shew thee that which the beast had torn. I made good all the damage whatsoever was lost by theft. Thou didst exact it of me. Day and night I was parched with heat and with frost, and sleep departed from my eyes. And in this manner I have served thee in thy house 20 years, 14 for thy daughters, and 6 for thy flocks. Thou hast changed also my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father Abraham and the fear of Isaac had stood by me, peradventure now thou hast sent me away naked. God beheld my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesterday. Laban answered him, The daughters are mine, and the children, and thy flocks, all things that thou seest are mine. What can I do to my children and grandchildren? Come therefore, let us enter into a league, that it may be for testimony between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone, and set it up for a title. And he said to his brethren, Bring hither stones. And they, gathering stones together, made a heap, and they ate upon it. And Laban called it the witness heap, and Jacob the hillock of testimony, each of them according to the propriety of his language. And Laban said, This heap shall be a witness between me and thee this day. And therefore the name thereof was called Galad, that is, the witness heap. The Lord behold and judge between us, when we shall be gone one from the other. If thou afflict my daughters, and if thou bring in other wives over them, none is witness of our speech but God, who is present and beholdeth. And he said again to Jacob, Behold this heap, and the stone which I have set up between me and thee shall be a witness. This heap, I say, and the stone be they for a testimony. If either I shall pass beyond it, going towards thee, or thou shalt pass beyond it, thinking harm to me. The God of Abraham and the God of Nachor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And after he had offered sacrifices in the mountain, he called his brethren to eat bread. And when they had eaten, they lodged there. But Laban arose in the night, and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them, and returned to his place. This concludes our Bible reading today. Thank you for joining me. God bless you, and I hope you join me again tomorrow. Have a great day.